Welcome to Spirit's Journey, coming to you live on Truth Frequency Radio and simulcast on Oneness Talk Radio. Your hosts are Patrick and Catherine Andrews.
Join us each week as we explore a wide range of metaphysical topics such as dreams, astrology, intuitive readings, and life purpose. You'll receive practical guidance so that you can live your most awesome life.
Learn more about what we do at intuitiveschool.com and connect with us on Facebook at Spirit's Journey Radio. Welcome to Spirit's Journey. We are coming to you on Truth Frequency Radio. We are also simulcast on Oneness Talk Radio. You can find us on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. We're here in the Heartland holding the energy for spiritual truth and awareness. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Catherine. Welcome, everyone. So, winter's coming, and we have one of our favorite guests on today to help us with the change of seasons. So we have Teresa Padilla today. If you've never heard her before, she is an expert in feng shui and seasonal food attunements. She's the creator of 5 Element Foodies Facebook group. So welcome, Teresa.
Yay, so wonderful to be here with you both. I love it.
Hi, Teresa.
I know. Well, and I love it too, because so much shifts with the change of season. It's not just weather. I mean, the more that I've learned from you over time, I have become so much more appreciative and aware of the subtle changes going on with the seasons.
Yeah, it's so great. I mean, whether you are in a like a tropical environment that doesn't, you don't really notice the seasons so much, they nevertheless are there. And we actually do have, 5 seasons. So it's wonderful to be here and share the winter season with
And
everyone.
So there's a 5th season. What's that one?
It's always the transitional season, which is the earth representative of the earth element. So between every season, you have the earth element that helps you transition between all the seasons. So just like if you're doing exercises, you always return to your core. That's how the movement always moves through the core. Same thing, how we move through the seasons is through our core element or the earth element. So that's the 5th season.
Wow, and we're both earth signs, so we probably hold the space and help the switch over, huh?
Right. We are the key to that, right?
Right. So do you want to share what are some of the signs of moving into the winter months? So how do we transition? I mean, we could talk for days, but let's go over, some of the basics.
Sure. I mean, I think I started studying, metaphysics, and then through my later days of metaphysics, I studied metaphysics with you guys. Then I got transitioned into learning the 5 element theory through feng shui, movement and environments, and then started studying 5 element theory with food. So now it's been about, I was just looking at that, it's been about, 11 years since I've been doing the food, added the food. And it, now it's such a refinement of within me that I just kind of naturally move to the things that I need for my body, mind, and spirit. But one of the things that I can share that's, I think, kind of the building blocks for life with learning about utilizing food for wellness, because I think a lot of people are queuing into that nowadays. People want to eat more healthy and want to realize that you eat a lot. That's one of the main things that you do every day is you eat and drink. So to pay attention to that with your awareness really creates a lot of health and wellness in your life.
Oh, I totally believe that. They say that food is the most powerful drug.
Yeah. And in the Chinese medicine, there's what's called the 3 vital treasures, which are the building blocks of life. And what these are, number 1 is your essence, or yin is what they call it. And 2 is chi, or your life force, and 3 is shen, or spirit and mind. And so learning how to balance all 3 of those creates your health and wellness. So with the seasonal food attunements, we're in the season of winter right now. That's the prime season that we're in. And so that's the highest function right now is winter. And your organs that are associated with that are your kidneys, your bladder, and your reproduction organs. And then what's the lowest is actually your spirit or your shen, or what's related to the heart element, the fire element. And those organs that are related to that are small intestine, heart, sex, circulation, and triple warmer. So those are the things that right now we want to highlight in working with our foods.
So since this is a little bit earlier in December, when is it exactly that we're transitioning into winter when people need to be aware of these food changes?
Well, I mean, we're in winter right now. So now through till February, 1st in February, we're going to be in winter. And so now's the time, Patrick.
So start making those changes now.
Yeah.
Well, what's so fascinating, Teresa, is you were just saying the heart is one of the lower things. And I was just talking to an acupuncturist the other day that the certain area on my hand was sometimes sweating. And she said, I told her where it was. She said, oh, that's the small intestine or the triple warmer.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. Yeah. Well, what most people, I think you're supposed to keep your head cool and your feet warm in winter. And that's kind of overall, good health. But a lot of people, and I would say I'm speaking maybe more American possibly, but it's kind of going all over the world, is that they have cool feet and hot heads. It's the opposite.
Oh, interesting.
So therefore, what that means is there's too much excess of the fire element, and which means that's why we have a lot of inflammatory diseases. So one of the ways that you can reduce that fire is by good quality food and air, is how you reduce the fire element. That's one way. So you can do that with just really, really good food that you're getting, like local good food. And when I say good, it's also like preparing the food, cooking the food yourself, having time to sit down and actually take in the food, in your environment with a relaxing and people that you love, I mean, all of those things go into eating good and eating good food. That would be high quality food is what that's called, not just going out to eat all the time or eating packaged, good organic packaged food,
Now, when you're talking about eating good food, and we've talked about how much the food affects the body, and sometimes you've even talked about food being like medicine or therapeutic. So I was curious because just today, actually, there were a group of teachers sitting around the table, and one of them was talking about that he was on the keto diet. So when people make these changes and they go on this diet that forces the body into ketosis, what kind of an effect does that have in terms of maintaining these balances that we're really looking for, and specifically right now in the winter?
Yes, I mean, that's a really good point, Patrick. One thing that I really realized is how we made there's a lot of studies and tests that are kind of back this up, but we measure, you can measure energy through location and movement, okay? So your internal rhythm, everyone has an internal rhythm, And then the environment, obviously, in the cosmos, we have an outer rhythm too. That's more universal. That's all around us. So when we learn how to harmonize and listen to that internal rhythm within ourselves, which goes according to seasons as well, and times of day, and paying attention to the light and listening to all that, and taking in the foods during their times of season. What you're doing is you're harmonizing the internal and outer environments. That way, you're combining that time and space so that you're synchronizing the time and space. And that's when you have true harmony. Now, when we decide to do things on our own, like these diets or just do whatever, without any kind of heedance to what time of season it is, that internal rhythm and that outer rhythm, then yeah, I mean, there's a cause and effect relationship to that, where there can be excess in certain organ function, depletion in certain organ functions, and it creates an imbalance overall. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest problems facing society today. If we just look around, it's like imbalance everywhere. I mean, I know this is the melting pot, but just mentally and emotionally, we could see so many people off balance with what's going on in the world. And then the obesity and all the other things show physically we're out of balance. So I think your work is so important because the whole key is balance. And why do you think it is that so many people are going off in extremes, whether it's with, food, extreme weight, extreme, mental, emotional issues? Why now?
I think we, as a cosmos or as a world, as a universe, we are transitioning from a yang dominated use of energy, and now moving into more of the yin cycle of things. So now the women's movements and highlighting women's issues and things like that are becoming more predominant. It is a natural flux for that to occur. And so I think that's one of the main things, is we're naturally evolving to that within our consciousness, and now it's coming out into all levels of where it's more tangible within us, and so now's a really good time to bring that balance within ourselves and out to our environment, all the way out, with awareness.
So what are some signs that people can use to see if they're starting to get out of balance so they can make those corrective actions?
Yeah, for winter, I mean, for this season that we're in, which, you always want to start where you are first and foremost, because the present moment, really, that's all we have, right?
Right.
So everything else is an illusion. But you want to stay 70% warm, and really, this is overall ideal, 70% satisfied with your food. And eat lots of root vegetables. Cabbage will always make you strong and healthy. That's a good thing.
Oh, cabbage. That's a good one.
Yeah, cabbage, cooked cabbage. I should say
cooked. Okay.
Cooked cabbage. Okay. So one thing, because your ears they're the flower of your kidneys. Your ears are the flowers of your kidneys.
Oh, that's a new one. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah, so if you have tendinitis or you have ear issues, then it's going to be a kidney issue, okay?
Interesting.
If you have low back, kidneys, obviously. Bladder, kidneys, right?
Right.
Anything with hearing, kidneys. So then we also have the opposite of that, which is the heart, which we're working with this season as well, because that's lowest, the the opposite is the lowest at, at this time. And so if you have like, Catherine had kind of sweating on her hand in the small intestine area, which is related to the heart. That means she's got excess in the heart, in the small intestine specifically.
So excess what? Heat or energy?
Excess, it'll be energy and heat, yeah.
All right.
So one good way is, again, reduce through really taking in your food in a really as productive as you can environment where you're relaxed, you're surrounded by loving people, which I know you guys are. But a lot of things, like right now, I talk to a lot of people throughout the day, every day now, and a lot of people just are so busy with their work life that I know it's difficult in that kind of balance to create, I'm going to sit down and eat a meal and just give my full attention to this, and not to my phone, not to my computer, not to anything else in my mind. Just nourish myself with this food and the air that's around me, and try not to drink and eat at the same time, because that's also paying attention to the good quality food and the good quality air, because you can't do those two functions at the same time in your body. So all those things help to reduce the excess in the heart. And then the taste of the heart and the fire element is bitter. And the taste in winter and related to the kidneys is salt. So what reduces the fire would be the opposite, which would be the salt. So to add a little bit of more salty foods, and that doesn't mean like pour table salt on your food. It's actually the foods that actually have the taste of salt. So seaweed, increase seaweed, kelp, like in your seasoning. They have the roasted seaweed packs that are real good. Kids love even eating those, nowadays. Mm-hmm. They have kelp, kind of a kelp powder that you can put in your food that helps. Now, that will help, create that balance within the heart and within the fire element, and help also balance the kidneys function as well.
Okay, and so with the bitter, Teresa, one thing comes to my mind: coffee is bitter, but I find difficulty, choosing foods that kids will like, or ideas for bitters to include in the diet. Greens as well, I guess. But what other suggestions you have to get the bitter in?
Well, I mean, grapefruit's bitter, and if you put, do you remember those little? You put sugar on grapefruit. You can make a lot of things out of grapefruit that kids like, just out of art, create like a little art thing, you put a little cherry in it, put a little sugar on top, and sometimes they'll eat the grapefruit. But yeah, bitter is a hard thing for young kids to like. That's why I try to put those kind of things, like I'll make some chocolate is bitter. And it's actually the sugar in chocolate that's sweet. Actual cocoa is bitter.
I'm glad to hear that.
Kids love chocolate, so you can add like kelp powder to the chocolate cupcakes. They won't even know it's in there. You can add things. Yeah. Which you kind of got to get that in these days, with kids.
Now, from what I'm recalling, for adults who drink coffee, the winter is a great time to actually drink coffee, right? To get that increased amount of bitters.
It is true, because once again, the heart function is usually lower. So you want to increase the heart function or increase the fire element in winter. So yeah, it's a good time to drink coffee. Now, also, what you got to keep in mind that coffee does dehydrate the kidneys. So you also, what I do is in the morning before I drink my cup of coffee, I will drink some water with some apple cider vinegar in it, some warm water with some apple cider vinegar in it, and first before I drink a cup of coffee. So for me, every cup of coffee, I drink, some water with that, just straight water.
Oh, that's good. So you drink the water actually before you drink the coffee.
Yeah.
All right. That's one thing I started doing a long time ago because I began to notice that the coffee was dehydrating me. So I started alternating a glass of water with coffee. And that was at a time when I was at an office, and you know how a lot of times they have complimentary coffee all day. So I
Right.
found myself getting up, like I'd have like 4 cups of coffee a day. I know some people will drink a lot more than that even. But,
Right.
you figure you have, just a couple of cups over a 4-hour period before lunch and a couple of cups, after lunch before you go. And it goes by. But yeah, I found that I had to start alternating. And I felt a lot better, when I was hydrating better with the
Right.
coffee.
Right. Yeah, something to think about, because as you're moving into the colder months, in this climate here in the United States mostly. I mean, if we're on the opposite in the other hemisphere, it's summer, but still you want to practice the opposite. You're still building in either hemispheres. You're still building you're still working with the kidneys and the heart functions, in both of those. It's just one would be more full and one would be less full, depending on what hemisphere you're in. So here in this hemisphere, we're moving into the colder months, which means, like traditionally in really cold climates, I mean, animals, they hibernate. The squirrels gather all their stuff to take into their storage. And that's what we want to do. We want to keep ourselves warm, and we want to take in just really good nutrients. Now, what happens is that creates like a reserve bank within us, in our kidneys, because the kidneys really, what they do is they store our essence, our reserves. And when we're born, we have a certain amount of original essence that we're given from our parents. And that stays in our DNA, at our heart of our genes and our hereditary. It's the essence that we have to utilize. Now you can convert that to chi through proper movement, proper intake of food, proper intake of air. But the only other thing that you can do to conserve what already been given to you through hereditary and through your parents with your original essence is to conserve it. So rest becomes extremely important, and when I'm talking about we work so many hours of the day, a lot of us do. I mean, in the nighttime, when the sun goes down, that's the time that we should be resting, and restoring ourselves and connecting with Shen or Source at that time. And then letting ourselves, actually have a good night's sleep. That's a very important part of creating balance in ourselves.
And so, Teresa, a topic I know a lot of people are probably curious about, and we may get into it the second half because we're almost coming up to the break. But I do want to talk about the issue of, should we eat meat or should we not eat meat? Of course, it's probably going to be a seasonal answer. But I know so many people who are vegans or vegetarians, and I know the winter months can be hard. So I'd love for you to be able to touch on that, and also to talk also about what kind of meats. How do we know if the meat we're getting is good, and all that good stuff? So, Patrick, do we have time for that now, or are we going to be going into the break?
Well, I think we probably better wait for the full answer before the break. Right before we go into break, Teresa, do you want to tell people how they can get in touch with you?
Sure. Right now, it is through 5 Element Foodies Facebook page. You can send me a message there. You can become a member. And there will be a link and some recipes on there for winter. So cue onto that for that. And then after the first of the year, pay attention to that. And I will also be having my new website up, which will have feng shui, seasonal food attunements, and awakening to your dreams through meditation and so forth, and vision boarding. So that will be the website is tune, and then the letter N, tunenature.com.
All right. Well, we are on with Teresa Padilla. We're talking about attunements for the winter months using the 5 Element food method. And so we are at the bottom of the hour. We're going to be going into a short break. During this break, you can go to our Spirits Journey page on tfrlive.com, and you can sign up to support the station and our show. And this is Spirits Journey on Truth Frequency Radio and Oneness Talk Radio. We will see you on the other side. Welcome back to Spirit's Journey. We are coming to you on Truth Frequency Radio and being simulcast on Oneness Talk Radio. We are back from the break, and if you're just joining us, we are on with Teresa Padilla talking about seasonal food attunements and the kinds of foods that are ideal for you to eat during the winter season.
So welcome back, Teresa. And before we went on break, we said we were going to tackle the big question. Should we eat meat? Should we not? What does food say about that? Food element.
Well, this is one of my philosophies, let's just say. I have learned through working with people with food for, over 10 years, that food is really a religion to people. What you eat is very important as far as what you believe in. So I don't try to tackle, telling people necessarily what to eat. I give suggestions as far as what foods are created for good wellness, help to harmonize with your internal rhythm, with your outer rhythm, so that you can create, longevity, good health. But you as an individual really need to kind of be aware of your own needs and grow with that. So as far as answering the question, should we eat meat? I eat meat. Now, do I eat meat, as much meat as I used to? No. And was there a period of time that I ate mainly vegetables? Yes. But no, I wouldn't necessarily tell people that they should eat meat or not. I think meat has a definite benefit as far as, you can get protein from a lot of different foods. You don't need to eat meat to have protein. But meat does give you more of a kind of a grounding effect, which a lot of people seem to need these days. I think we've raised our energy so much, and we then have created so many things to do that it has become difficult for people to ground themselves. So meat does have a tendency to kind of help ground you, ground the chi, so to speak. But you do need vegetables with meat in order to break down the meat and to be able to utilize it.
Well, that's probably the most interesting response. Everybody's so used to hearing mandates: do eat meat, don't eat meat. So it was such a refreshing change that your approach is individualistic.
Yeah, I mean, I think you are the only one that can say, I'm the governor of myself. This is what's going into my body. I mean, your body is like a temple, your mind is a temple. Your spirit is there, um, it's a sacred place, So, I mean, I guess that's the best advice is to, be sacred with that. But the things that I can give some recommendations for this season as far as meat combinations and if you don't want to eat the meat, then just leave the meat out. But pork and cabbage function very good together. Pork creates more of a moisture within the yin and within the body, and we're moving into drier weather on this hemisphere. So pork helps to increase the moisture, and cabbage, they help increase the yin, which we're increasing our yin right now during winter is what we're doing. And that's what helps strengthen the kidneys and helps support the heart organs. Then beef and pumpkin or beef and squash, like butternut squash, is a really good combination as well.
Hmm.
Um, and
Beef
then
and
also,
pumpkin, that's an interesting combination.
yeah, I really like a beef and pumpkin soup. I think that's really hearty. Soups are just really good right now. And, I mean, we have, busy lives, created busy lives, put stuff in the crock pot, make a good soup, Shrimp and rice, shrimp and rice are really good right now. Shrimp increases the the kidney function and the heart function as well. And then rice, little amounts of rice are one of the greatest things that build your yin. And you want to in small increments. So eating rice throughout the day in different ways helps build your yin. Now I eat rice through, I try to get it's called an everything cracker. I love them. But they have like brown rice in them, and I love those. And they have the energy bars that are not like, Red Bull energy bars or anything like that, but they have all different kinds of foods in them that are more whole foods. And rice is one of those foods that's in there. And millet, those are always good grains that help you to build your yin in small amounts. And then cooking rice. I always have some kind of rice every day in a couple different ways usually. And then I even will drink a cup of toasted rice tea. That's really nice.
Reminds me of the horchata, the Mexican restaurants, which I love when it's not made from cow milk, but I like it when it's made from rice milk. And that's a
Right.
great way too, actually.
Yeah, and then we have a lot of holiday dishes that are rice puddings and stuff like that. And you can make rice congees in the morning for breakfast, or add oatmeal and rice, put it in the crock pot, and then put some. This is one of my favorite recipes. And I mean, if I don't have oatmeal, I mean, I have to have some kind of warm congee in the morning, almost at least, I would say 4 or 5 days a week. Otherwise, I do not, I just don't have I don't have the whole nutrition. I don't feel as good as I normally feel, body, mind, and spirit without that. So there's over a period of time of doing that, I can really tell how it's building a lot for me. And then I'll change up the foods that I put in the porridge or congee or oatmeal, warm cereal combination, whatever you want to call it, whatever grains you put in it. I'll change, I always have some kind of rice in there. I always have usually some kind of millet in there. Now for winter, I'll add some buckwheat in there because buckwheat is really good for the kidneys. It's very storing and very healthy and a lot of protein. Now, if you want to do gluten-free, then do rice, do millet, do oats, And then I always add some roasted or toasted, like pumpkin seeds or walnuts, or, that I roast or toast. I don't buy them that way usually, so that I can control the oils and the salts on them. And pine nuts really help build that heart essence right now that's needed. They're really good. So kind of put almonds, put that in there. Apricots are really good right now. Um, and these are like dried. Right now you can add your dried, raisins, dates, apricots, put that in there. And I put a little bit of, then I'll put like a little bit of molasses, which is really strengthening for your bones and for your kidneys, and helps your heart and helps a lot of functions. And then I, just add a little bit of sugar to it at the end, right before I sweeten it, right before I, eat it. So good for you.
Well, I'm so glad you brought up the breakfast food, because I know obviously when I teach in the schools, I see these kids with, a pastry out of a package for breakfast. It's like, or Cheerios with cow milk. And it's like, oh gosh, no wonder these kids can't concentrate by 9:00. They've gotten cardboard for breakfast with no nutrients.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Now
Yeah,
I seem. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was confirming that. Yeah.
Now I seem to remember you mentioned that winter is the main time that you would eat red meat. Is that true? And if it is, then why would that be?
I mean, red meat it has more blood in it. It has blood in it, obviously. And so the blood helps the shin or the spirit or the heart, helps the, small intestine, the sex circulation and triple warmer and all that. Yeah. So that's where that comes in. And that beef and pumpkin recipe helps for that.
Is there like a beef and pumpkin soup recipe or something that's out there that might be good?
Yeah, I mean, I can include that with a link for you guys to include and put it on the Facebook Foodies as well. I'll add that.
Oh, that would be great.
And then
I'd like to try that.
Yeah, I can tell he's wanting that.
Yeah.
So have they done studies? I mean, I know the benefits of this. I've seen you and how much you've benefited from it, and the people that do it. But for somebody who's never done it and they're hearing us talk about all this stuff, is there any studies or anything that, have shown how beneficial this can be for people?
Well, I mean, the Chinese have done 2,000 years of studies. So that would be a good place to begin.
That's a great point. Okay.
And that is I mean, they've done all the studies, and I'm not kidding on that one. So it's seeping out over into us now. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of studies. I mean, obviously you go online. I mean, I don't have them right at my fingertips right now, but there's lots of studies with that support it.
And so, we talked about the young kids getting out of balance. If they had the cereal that you just talked about, boy, I could just see how kids in schools could be so much more balanced. And I know the younger you are, the easier it is for your body to bounce back or just kind of nudge it in the direction of healing. But what about the elderly, who are developing all kinds of autoimmune diseases, Alzheimer's, you name it? And their bodies are like, they're in a stage where they're not usually as receptive as a child's body. So how can, some of the elderly use some of these tips?
Oh, I think, I'm just really coming into realizing the benefit of how after 10 years of time of really applying that. And when I say 10 years, I mean, I've applied this and lived the seasonal food attunements to my life for 10 years throughout the day, every day, with every meal that I eat. And that's not an exaggeration. It is a devotion of mine. So I have now seen over a period of time and realized the benefits to I call them the wisdom, the wise ones, one of the things that is lost is they forget who they are, little by little, and it's the main thing that I'm realizing is that causes that function is the loss of touch with nature and that connection with nature, because that is where the internal rhythm and the outer rhythm is combined, is through nature. And so by eating foods that harmonize with the 5 elements in the 5 seasons, and harmonizing your internal rhythm to that outer environment, what happens is you increase your longevity and you increase your function in all your organs. You increase your hearing, you increase your flexibility, because you're eating live foods, your essence becomes more alive. You conserve your original essence and you convert the rest of the stuff, essence that you're building into chi. And so what you're doing is you're adding life to yourself. You're adding dimension, you're adding things. You're not just taking up what's left. And what was given to you, which is what a lot of people do, is that they ride on what they have and they use it up rather than learn how to build something and conserve what you have.
That's a great point. I think, is when we're younger, we feel invincible. And then, and then when we realize we're not, it's kind of too late, like you're saying, to build up the reserves. It's kind of like with money. If you haven't saved a penny your whole life and all of a sudden, you retire and you're like, well, wait, I don't have any money. It's a little too late then to start building up your reserves.
Right.
And even just like on a seasonal basis, I think it kind of has to do with that ability to, think about more than just today. Like, well, if I do these things during the winter months, I build myself up, I'm just going to be so much healthier the next season, and so on and so forth. And it's a cumulative thing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you have to have an overall ideal. And when I say ideal, I mean something that comes from inside of you. To me, an ideal is a living ideal, which is one that combines your action with purpose. Okay, it's a purpose for the reason why you even get up in the morning. Why do you choose to move your little finger? I mean, that kind of ideal where you've given some thought, you've given some attention, you've given some awareness, you've made choices relating to that. You bring that out in yourself, and through that there's light. I mean, it's literally light that comes off of you, light that's in your eyes, light that's in your skin, that comes through the skin, that illuminates your skin. I mean, it attracts people and things to you when you need them. I mean, that it is actually very tangible to turn towards the light with your attention, with your food, with your choices, with your actions, with all of that. Yeah.
Now, when you're talking about that original essence that we're born with, that's passed on to us from our parents, is that kind of a sign of longevity? So when we use up all of that original essence, is that kind of when people typically pass?
That is exactly when they pass. Yeah. That is exactly what happens. They use up their essence. Yeah.
So is there any way to rejuvenate that? Or like, what would be some ways if people feel depleted that they can build that chi back up in the kidneys?
Well, right now during winter, you want to think in terms of really 3 things: strengthen and tone, okay, conserve, and help to kind of moderate and regulate. So to strengthen is you were building up the yin right now in the winter. So like the tips that I had with like the rice, to eat the proper foods. So that would be like the pork with the cabbage, the beef with the pumpkin, the shrimp with the rice, having that good quality oat or warm cereal in the morning, getting proper rest in the evening. That's conserving, your essence is getting that proper rest, getting really good quality food when you're eating it during the day. That's also strengthening and conserving. You don't want to take too many hot baths, because too many hot baths and too much heat opens up the pores right now. And we're going into the cold, so you want to prevent the pores from being completely open during winter, because that's another way of conserving that essence and that chi. So you want to keep yourself warm during winter, so cover up. Don't be like, say, I'm tough, I can wear my shorts out there and no jacket, you know what I mean? Which you do see a lot of people do. Have you
Oh
noticed?
my word! I don't
A
see.
lot of middle schoolers.
I
Yeah,
don't.
really?
Yeah, I don't remember people doing that so much before. It seems to be this new thing, and I mean, especially at school. All these kids are going to school in their shorts like it's June or something.
I know. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah.
All right. So, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to mention, well, we're talking about the need to eat healthy food. And I just do want to let everybody know, obviously, organic is the best, and we really don't want glyphosate in our food. And so because today is Giving Tuesday, there is a nonprofit group called Moms Across America, whose goal is to help us keep a clean food supply for kids and adults. So they work on getting glyphosate out of the out of the lineup for pesticides in stores. They just do a lot of amazing things. So it is Giving Tuesday. If you're called to wanting a cleaner food supply, that's one area I know that you can trust is Moms Across America. So just wanted to let everybody know that, since we're talking about that. And then Teresa, I want to go back a minute when you were talking about, the elderly have kind of lost their sense of direction, and they're out of balance with nature. So how do we get seniors in nature? Because I know that's the big thing with kids now, is all these kids with ADD, they're finding the best thing that's helping them is being in nature.
Yeah.
Kids love nature, but how can they get in tune with nature, the elderly, if they don't want to go outside? Or
Right. You bring it inside. I mean, you bring the nature inside, through the actual elements, like through a fireplace, through water fountains, through solar, the sun. They do have lots of sunlight that comes in through the outside with the windows. I do know that. Let's see, through plants on the inside with the wood element, and through food is the best source. With all, just food in general is all earth. Okay, even though you can break it down into all the different elements, it is all earth as well. So that's a big earth element. That would be the main thing, is the actual element itself is always the best.
yeah, well, that's awesome. I mean, everybody, I guess we could all do that in our homes, because a lot of us do hibernate inside in the winter. We don't go out enough. So I could see that being beneficial for anybody.
Yeah, I have a good little story with creating a good environment with those 5 elements. Whether it's the outer environment and the food. Eating the food in seasons is the inner environment with the 5 elements. But with the outer environment, with those 5 elements in your space, there was this guy who worked in a hotel, and he was a barista, and asking him about, if he really, he was just so happy to be there in that hotel being the barista. And so asking him about how come he loved, his job so much. And he said, because any manager throughout the day to me comes by and says, hey, what can we do to help you out? And it wouldn't matter if it was his manager or any manager in that hotel came anytime they walked by and they said, what can I do to help you, to help you do your job better and to just help you? They were always ready to help him. And he loved being there. And, he said he felt like he could be himself. Now, that was the environment that created that within the hotel. So your environments that you create outside, that you live in, properly balanced with feng shui elements and harmonized with your internal rhythm, you can fully be who you are, in that space. So when that happens, there's a flow that just is natural within you. And that helps you to increase your longevity. I mean, there's no limit. It's unlimited as far as the possibilities that can occur with us.
Great. So you mentioned the feng shui, and we have just a couple minutes before the show ends. And so do you have any quick, maybe feng shui suggestions for winter for people, something they could change around quickly for the season?
Yeah, I would say this is something that people don't really think about, is to bring a fountain indoors for winter. Put it like in near the entrance, inside entrance of your space. That's in a not like right when you come in the door where you're going to knock it over or something, but where it's in kind of like a little cove or something that's protected, and you can maybe sit by it where you can hear. It's a pleasant sound, and maybe drink some hot tea by it. Maybe drink some American ginseng with raw honey, tea is really good. Some echinacea tea, drink that by the water fountain sometime during the day and just sit there, reflect, listen to yourself, meditate. Those things that I've just said, all those things will help you harmonize in winter and with the fire element, with the water and the fire element, and then will increase your feng shui in your space and your environment in your space as well.
Well, that's a great suggestion, because in the winter, everybody's thinking about sitting by the fire, but people probably aren't thinking about bringing a fountain into the home. That's probably something we think about more in like the spring and summertime. I know I do. Right. But we really enjoyed having you, Teresa. We are out of time. The show is coming to a close. So thank you for being on with us today.
You can find Teresa at 5 Element Foodies Facebook group.
All right. And so this has been Spirit's Journey, and we want to stay connected with you. Please stay in touch with us at Spirit's Journey Radio on Facebook. We are on Truth Frequency Radio, simulcast on Oneness Talk Radio. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Catherine. Have a fantastic week. We'll catch you next Saturday.
Bye for now.